Happy 4th of July, everyone. I know this is a day early, but I wanted to give a shout out to all of you guys watching this right now. Hopefully, you guys are spending some quality time with your family and friends at home this weekend. I don't plan on streaming tonight or tomorrow, so I'm creating this one day early. But I did want to give you guys a shout out and give a special thanks to every one of you guys watching. Because I really do appreciate the support. A lot of you guys have been very, very strong throughout this major correction that we are in right now. And I know a lot of you guys have followed me for quite some time. You know, I started my channel in 2017, and I know many of you guys follow me since 2017 or 2018, but many of you guys haven't. Many of you guys started watching me, you know, in 2021 when things were really, really good. And the fact that you're still staying with me now shows that I'm doing something right. But I did want to thank all of you guys that continue to stay strong, continue to focus on the future, and more importantly, continue to hodl Bitcoin, because we are going through one of those major correction times. You could argue possibly the worst it's ever been for Bitcoin. That was... it's kind of scary. I don't know if you guys heard that. Some stray cats that's fighting. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, you know, it's arguably one of the worst times we have ever been through with Bitcoin. You know, I cover the economy a lot, cover stock markets a lot more recently. And, you know, right now, it's the worst 6 months, the worst first half of a year ever in history for NASDAQ. And for Dow, you have to go back to 1960. And for S&P 500, you got to go back to 1970. That's how bad it's been for the markets. U.S. markets, absolutely brutal. And for Bitcoin, yeah, it's been horrible too. In fact, I think this first half of this year, in terms of the percentage fall, is the greatest we have ever seen. But even with all that going on and all the FUD that's out there, and everyone, again, questioning Bitcoin, whether or not it can really withstand a recession, whether or not it has any intrinsic value, whether it will survive, these questions will be answered. And for me, I think, yes, 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 Bitcoin will survive. And despite all the negativity out there, and despite what it looks like right now, I'm reminded that Bitcoin is still, today I checked, it's a little bit above 19,000. Yeah, it's still above 19,000, right? We were just 20,000 not too long ago. We were even higher, obviously, last month. But despite having one of the worst corrections we have ever seen for stock markets, for Bitcoin, we're still at 19,000. And I mentioned some of you guys have been watching me since 2017. You know that when we fell down in 2018, when we fell down to that 3,000 mark, we were there hovering between 3,000 and 5,000, 3,000 to 6,000 for literally, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, something like that. I'm not in front of my computer, but it was long and it was treacherous. We were at like 3,000 or 4,000 for 6 months. 6 months. And then, yeah, we had a climb and we did have some up and downs. And of course, we had our issues in 2020 with COVID. And that's when Bitcoin had a flash crash down to 3,800, right? So I'm reminded of those times. And many of you guys know what I'm talking about. But some of you guys didn't live through that. You got in 2021, so you don't remember it. You haven't experienced it, right? But those of us that have, were reminded how bad it is, how bad it was versus how bad it is now. And I would argue it was way worse before. No matter what the statistics and data say, it was just much worse because, quite simply, you know, Bitcoin was much lower. Ethereum was much, much lower. Most of the altcoins either were 100 times lower, if not more, or they didn't even exist. So the thing is, I look at that and I recognize that, yeah, we've been through hell the last 6 months, but it's not nearly as bad as before. And I do think that right now shows you how strong Bitcoin is. And some of you guys may not understand that or laugh at that and it's like, what are you talking about? How can you say it's strong? Well, I mean, just think about it. Just think about what has happened. You have major tech companies now down 70-80% from their high, right? Major global tech companies, right? You have many industries that have been absolutely wrecked, many companies that have gone under. We still have inflation being a serious issue. We still have supply chain issues. We still have a war going on, right? And people are still, excuse me, debating whether or not we're in a recession. We're definitely in recession. When GDP numbers come out for Q2, it's going to verify we're in recession. And we're probably going to go deeper into recession, right? And despite all of these things going on right now, all of these things, which didn't happen in the previous corrections, previous cycles of Bitcoin, we're still where we are at 19,000. Bitcoin is not down to 3,000. It's not down to 3,800. We're still at 19,000 despite all of these things happening concurrently right now. So think about how amazing that is, how strong Bitcoin holders are. There are so many Bitcoin holders that continue to just HODL and DCA, and it's really, it's really amazing to think about, right? You have guys that have come into the space recently, like Michael Saylor. You even have President Bukele from El Salvador. You have many different companies now that also have invested in Bitcoin, right? They're not going away. And same thing with the miners. The miners are staying strong, even though there's a little bit of sell-off, but there's many miners that continue to increase their hash rate and continue to mine Bitcoin because they know this is temporary. What we're going through is temporary, and Bitcoin will rise up and become stronger, right? So it's really quite amazing to think about everything that's going on around the world right now, everything with a war going on, with massive supply chain issues, which we have never experienced pretty much ever, right? And it's been ongoing for 2 years, probably going to 3 years, but we have that going on. We have ultra high inflation. The US government has debt out the wazoo, and not just US government, but pretty much every country, right? And rate hikes are being increased at a rate that we haven't seen for decades, if ever, right? All of these things, everything that's going on, Bitcoin is still holding strong, nowhere near levels of 2020 or 2018, right? And that's very encouraging. And that's thanks to you guys, every one of you guys that's watching, right? That's why I wanted to thank you guys, because not only for my support, but also just staying strong and helping each other throughout this period and basically keeping the community together and strong, right? This is not a time to be bashing each other to preserve your bags. We all have our own bags. We all have projects we love, right? But this is a time for us to really stick together and help each other through this rather than spread FUD and misery and try to drive people out. That's not what we want, and that's not what we should do, right? So that's it for this video, guys. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. Again, I hope you guys have a good 4th of July weekend, and I will see you on the 5th, bright and early, my usual time, 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.